Okay, perfect. So we are on right now. So hello, everybody, and welcome to our PAS Leadership Academy webinar. My name is Dr. Brian Zader, and I am the Director of Percussion at Texas A&M University Commerce. This is my about to start my 22nd year here at A&M Commerce. I'm also a past president of PAS, serving on the executive committee for about 8 years, from 2013 to 2020. And I'm also a founder of the PAS Leadership Academy. And so just a real quick reminder for everybody about the Leadership Academy. Basically, it's some of the goals are we're helping people just to be leaders in everything we do, not just our teaching, but just in our lives. And anything that we do it at the highest level of professionalism and intentionality. For this year in 2022, we've organized 3 webinar events. We had Chris Hanning earlier this year. I'm so excited that we have Cecilia Clark with us today. And later on this year, we're going to have Chris Thompson from MAPS Motivation later this fall. And all of these are going to be recorded, and you're probably watching this from the PAS playlist right now. Just a quick reminder, just make sure you guys are checking out the resources link on the PAS Leadership Academy page from the PAS website. We have a ton of books and podcasts and resources on that document. So today I'm so excited to welcome our guest, Mrs. Cecilia Clark. So we could say hi real quick, Ms. Clark.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you. I can't wait to chat.
So we do have some questions that we'll talk to Cecilia about, but let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll jump into our questions. So Cecilia is the director of bands at Allatoona High School in Acworth, Georgia. She's starting her 10th year and is originally from Maryland, where she graduated from high school in the early 90s, and now she's actually in her 27th year in the classroom. That is just amazing. She attended Duquesne University, received her Bachelor of Science in Music Education degree in 1996. While at Duquesne, she performed in the Wind Symphony, Symphony Orchestra, Percussion Ensemble. Yes, she is a percussionist, electronic ensemble, contemporary ensemble, and the trombone choir. Was that playing trombone, or was that playing percussion for the trombone choir?
I was the timpanist with the trombone choir.
Okay. I was reading.
They also play trombone, but
you probably play like every instrument now, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Cecilia's percussion teachers include the incredibly well-known Stanley Leonard, also Gerald Unger, Andrew Reamer, and Lenny Rogers. She also studied conducting with Robert Cameron, Craig Kirchhoff, and the late, who just passed away recently, Larry Radcliffe. Cecilia also received her master's degree in special education from Duquesne, and she is currently an ABD doctoral candidate with an emphasis in music education from Boston University. So in addition to teaching at Allatoona High School for now a decade, going on a decade, she also was an assistant band director and the fine arts department chair at McEachern,
also here in Cobb.
And Cobb County in Georgia, and was also director of bands at several schools in Pennsylvania. So she has served as percussion consultant and technician for several schools in Pennsylvania, has taught at several different Division III and WGI groups as well, and is also an adjudicator for WGI events around the country. And most recently, Cecilia is a founding board member and the president-elect for the Servant Leadership Association for Music, SLAM, which Tim Lotzenheiser, Dr. Tim, is a founder. So we are so excited to have Cecilia meet with us here for the PAS Leadership Academy. We will talk about SLAM a little bit later on. And so again, thank you, Cecilia, so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So before we get into some of the Leadership Academy questions, we've actually been talking before pressing record for quite a bit now, and it's just been an amazing conversation. And so we talked just real quick right before we pressed record, and that you are a director of bands, but you
Yes.
also have a percussion background, and that's not typical. So I'd love to hear about your experience and your pathway of going from the percussion, studying that percussion side of things, and your pathway into being a band director.
Absolutely. I started as a percussionist in fourth grade. I am a daddy's girl, and my father was a percussionist as well. As a matter of fact, in fourth grade, I used to lug my dad's Rogers snare drum that was in his case from the Air Force band. I took it with me, to band once a week when I was in all the way fourth through eighth grade. I would carry it to and from school. So it's always been such an important and continues to be an important part of who I am. Today I was leading a percussion class with sticks in my hands, holding up mallets, showing them 4 mallet grips. So I think that that's important for any band director to remember how they got to where they are. I know I have colleagues who say that their instrument is a baton. And I certainly appreciate that. And I love conducting. And it is certainly an art form that I've pursued as well, in the fact that, I've made a point of studying and continue to do that. But I didn't go down the path of becoming a band director by accident. I mean, I got here because of the experiences that I had as a percussionist. And so it's just a really important part of who I am on a regular basis. I tried to step into my role as director of bands where I had a percussion instructor who would come in and teach my percussion class. And I had some great percussion instructors, shout out to Lauren Teal and Levi Cole and all the great folks who taught my students. But at the end of the day, I looked at my boosters and I said, I want to teach my percussionist in class. And yes, I absolutely have a great team that come in and help us during marching season, because I do need to kind of have that bird's eye view and look at the big picture. But when it comes to let's every day, what does percussion class look like? I teach it myself. And I would hope that my clarinet colleagues or trumpet colleagues or saxophone colleagues, whatever your instrument is, that your primary is still in your hands when you're teaching, because that's who you are as a teacher.
I'm curious, does that your passion and the instrument that is at your core is percussion, do you see students of other instruments, non-percussionists, do you think they see you as a little bit, I hate to say, but more than just the band director, that, wow, she's kind of one of us because she still plays
Sure.
and stays in touch with their instrument. Do you see that? Do you see that at all? Do you think?
I think so, especially for my percussionists in particular, because I don't look like a drum teacher. So when the band director, and it's funny too, because even the wind players now, if I'm on the podium and there's something and I'm just not articulating well, like the sound that I want, or I start off the podium towards the percussion section, everybody's like, uh-oh, because I'm like, get off the stool, honey, let me just show you, and I just want to sit down at the timpani, or I do the hey, bring the tambourine up here, but today in percussion class, we're playing stone stick control. We've got the YouTube, funk drum loop playing, and we're just chopping it out. And I think that the kids look and they see the band director step off the podium and pick up sticks and just kind of groove with them as we're playing stone stick control. And they're kind of my band director is actually a little bit cool, Which
That's
we don't often get to be cool. At least not at my age.
I can attest to that as well. So yes. Percussionists, we're the coolest section of the band anyways.
Without a
So,
doubt.
I mean, so it's kind of easy to just kind of, step into that, just being cool. That's neat to hear just about, even some of the other band members, they're like, oh, wow, she's actually playing her instrument. Like
Yeah.
she can really play. And that to me, it seems like it's earning their respect.
Absolutely.
As well. So
And my colleague does the same thing. My the gentleman that I work with is a trombone specialist, and yes, of course he plays trombone and the kids expect that. But then every once in a while when Mr. Gurno like goes and sits down with a tuba, everybody's like, oh man. Or he picks up a trumpet like, y'all are in trouble now. And I think that's important for any teacher, like to model, and so being able to effectively do that is just, yeah, that's just so important.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I go do a clinic or something, I go to high school or middle school, and I'm playing some stuff, and we're doing something. I would every once in a while I try to play exactly what they're doing, but on the other side of the instrument.
Yeah.
So I'm playing it backwards, but I play it twice as fast as what we're trying to do. And so they have no clue what I'm playing. They just see that I'm playing it like that, and their eyes are about this big. They're
Yeah.
like,
Like,
mind blown. It's like, okay, all right. So
and you
now
need
you can
that.
see.
You need that because then it's like mad respect. They're like, yes, sir. What do you want me to do next? Because I want to be able to do that.
Yep. It's like, okay, well, you got to do what we're doing right now first, and then you can do this.
Yeah.
So let's take baby steps. So I think this leads really well and into kind of our first one of our 4 questions that we ask all of our webinar guests. So for the Academy, and I think just this big picture aspect, and you talked about a few of these just now, but in your role as the director of bands at Allatoona, what is your most important job and role in that position?
And this is, you said it already, big picture. The big picture is, I feel like the most important thing that I do is make choices on behalf of other folks. I have to, because I mean, think about it, for so many of us, your high school band experience, that's just like, they're just so formative and you have so many fond memories. You even smiled just a little bit just now when you stopped to go, oh, high school band. And so the choices that I make are just so, it's so much more than what tune are we going to play. And that's really important, the course of study that the students pursue. But where is it that we're going to travel? Are we going to compete? And what is our philosophy of competition? And how do I make choices that align with that philosophy? And what is my vision for the kind of kid that graduates from my program? Did the choice that I made today for this rehearsal, did it take us in that direction? And I grow more and more aware of the impact of my choices, and that it's not something I can just do at a job. I've got to think about that lasting impact. And, band directors, we choose, what is it that our kids are going to wear? Do you ever think about, like, well, how does a kid feel when you put them in that costume or in that uniform? Or is it only elevating the show design? Did you really think about the student's self-confidence when you put them in that? Or, I mean, it's just like, it's an endless series of choices, beyond like, what kind of toothpaste am I going to use in the morning? And because that only impacts my teeth, and anybody that gets super close to me. Versus, the endless amount of choices that we have as educators and as leaders of our programs, that what is that communicating to the students that we are responsible for, and does it always align with our own personal philosophies and the vision that we have for our program?
That's I love that perspective of you're making choices that affect so many others. So a follow-up question to this, you're going into your 27th year of teaching. Was there a shift
Yes.
in your thinking, and when was that? And was there something that you could kind of maybe pinpoint, or maybe it wasn't one thing, but when do you kind of look back and see that shift? Because as a first year, second year teacher, you're not quite thinking that. So,
No.
but you have an incredible amount of experience. So when did some of that shift kind of happen for you?
I honestly, not until probably this last, what I guess will be the last third of my career. I don't know when it will actually end, but I think we are very self-centered, and not necessarily in a negative way, but in a way that we kind of have to be, because we're trying to navigate through everything very early in our career. And sometimes, I know for me personally, I made choices early in my career, really truly believing that I was doing it for the students in my ensembles, when now I look back and I see it happen when educators are like the version of me, I can see it now going, oh yeah, they think that that's actually for their kids. That's not. They're not doing that for kids. We're doing it because we're filling our resume. We're doing it to get our name out there. We're doing it for, and but yes, I'm going to go to the, conference. Is that really making your kids better? Is that why you're doing it? And it took me the greater part of my career to just stop and go, I say that I'm student centered, but are my choices really reflecting that? As opposed to self-promotion. Yeah. And unfortunately, I probably made very selfish decisions for a really long time. So was there any one thing in particular? This one stings. So it was my first year at a high school program in Pennsylvania. And we were talking about our Bands of America regional that they were already registered for before I accepted the job. And we're talking about being prepared for it. And are we doing all the right things? And are we going to be successful? And I said to the kids, hey, I want to see my name up on that, up on the Jumbotron just as much as you do, this high school director of bands. And one of the kids came up to me afterwards and said, is that why you're doing this? So your name is on the Jumbotron? Ooh.
Oh.
And I didn't think that when I said it, it was about my name on the Jumbotron, because in my mind, my name was going to be with theirs. But I wanted my name on the Jumbotron. And that stung. That stung hard, but that was nearly 10 years into teaching. Wow. Before I had that gut punch. And then it still has taken me a long time to kind of keep myself in check, to make sure that I'm truly serving others. And that for me is what leadership is all about, is serving others.
Yeah. Well, and that, oh my gosh, that experience, I bet, and I can tell it still is kind of a fresh memory for you too. That
I can picture the young lady that said it to me.
Yep. And I think we all have those moments that we need some of those. We need some of those moments, even though it's painful at the time. So thank you for sharing that. I know that's a tough one, and that but none of us are perfect. And but you wouldn't be in the position you are today if you if you didn't continue learning and continue growing.
Sure.
And so I appreciate you sharing that. And I think it kind of goes into our next question um, with what are some of the biggest challenges um, that you see as serving as director of bands? And I think you mentioned one of them is continuing to focus on the serving part, but are there some other challenges that you see?
I think that for me, I'm finding that it's really difficult to always be on,
Mm,
to give 100% of the time.
mm,
And that they're really just our job is one that it's not something you do, it is who you are. And we're so personally invested. I don't ever want my students I want them to always see that, like, the truest version of me, but I just trying to always be 100% for them becomes more and more difficult, and maybe it's an age thing. And you want to just exhale, and you just don't ever truly, I don't feel like I ever really truly get to exhale. My husband would probably agree, as I sit in here and he's eating dinner out there, that don't know, that wasn't, I'm not trying to hurry this conversation, I'm sorry.
You're like, wrap this up, Brian. Okay, come on.
No, it's just, I mean, and I'm sure that you find that too, that this is not a job that you put away. Like, at the end of the day, you don't like pack it into a briefcase or shut your computer and walk away, and it just leaves until the next day when you walk into the office. That's not the life that we live. Not for those of us who are really, really trying to do it at the highest levels. It is always a part of what is happening in my heart and mind. There are very few times that button, that band director button, goes off, that musician goes off. Sometimes I can't even listen to music because that's where, like, I'm analyzing it, thinking about it, I just have to ride to school in silence.
Yep.
So that's a challenge,
Yeah.
being able to find that balance. And I think that for younger educators, that's something that they really struggle with. And some people who leave our world, because of that work-life balance just isn't one that they've been able to find, and it's easier to find it in another field than in
Yeah.
ours.
Right. Do you have an outlet that is not music related that you kind of go to? What is, you're smiling, you're like, yes, I have. What is
I
that?
have to. Yeah, I have to. So I read, which is crazy because I never enjoyed it as a student. I did anything and everything that I could to get away with not reading. I'm typically reading several different things at the same time. That's a really great way for me to just like calm myself down and shut the world off. And I do like to do some like breathing and meditation. Like, once I can read and get myself like out of band director mode for a moment, then I try to make sure that I do that. But the other place, for my husband and I, we have a boat, we paddleboard, we kayak, we like to be out on the water and out in nature. So that's the, as much as possible. If my husband's fishing, then I'm on the boat and I'm reading, or I'm taking pictures of him while he's fishing, or I'm paddle boarding. But just something that's always been like just that, the water, the breeze, the trees, the birds chirping, all of the rain. Yeah, just getting outside. That's where I feel that I'm solar powered. And so if I don't get outside, I start to malfunction.
You got to recharge. That's it. That's your way to recharge, being solar
Yeah,
powered there. I like
100%.
it. I like it. Mine is golf. And so
Oh,
something that I like to do. And in the spring, we actually have a Tuesday night golf league that
nice.
I put it in my calendar. and it's like we go, and I have it's a two-man team. It's me and the CFO from Rose City ISD, and so we've been playing for about 3 years now, and we that's our thing. In the spring semesters, we go do that, and
And no shop talk, like while you're playing, do you talk shop or?
not really, because I mean I'm on the board, and so I mean
Yeah.
we're together every once or twice a month, and he's doing his CFO thing in a school board meeting, and I'm there and I'm listening and that sort of thing. But we try not to talk much about
Yeah.
that. So we try to
It's
talk about
just
other
it,
things.
it's so important. Like the best version of you can only be when you're taking care of yourself,
Yep.
so you got to find that thing.
Yep.
Yeah, we used to live in Oakmont. I bet if you're a golfer, you're familiar with Oakmont. Yeah, we
Yes.
lived in Oakmont, Pennsylvania. We would play Oakmont East, which is the public course adjacent to.
Oh my, hey, it's probably still just an amazing course also.
Yeah, because it's the same grounds crew. There's just a fence dividing it. But yeah, oh yeah, it was beautiful.
Right now in North Texas, we haven't had rain in like almost 70 days, so it is not in great shape right now. But so yeah, playing somewhere like Oakmont, Pennsylvania right now would be a pretty nice
Yeah.
kind of experience.
You just
So
have really fast courses, right?
yeah,
When
hit
it's
some
that
hit some
dry.
worm burners, and yeah, it's just dry land. It's just gonna roll for hundreds of yards. It's awesome. So um so I'm I'm curious, and talking about golf, but now we're getting into like back to a serious topic. We were talking a little bit before about some data
Mm,
about band directors, and more specifically, we were talking about female band directors, and I feel like this could be a larger, much larger, longer conversation, but I want to talk about this. And I don't know if it necessarily is a challenge for you, or is it a challenge for our art form or in our field. But I think before I talk, for you specifically about some of the things that you do to grow as a leader, I'm curious to hear a little bit more about just some of your perspective on whether it's you for a challenge for you or for more of us, and uh, how we can work to have more people, more diversity of gender, race, everything in teaching our kids and teaching these young students.
yeah. I someone asked me once, well, what is it like, being a female percussionist, a female band director? And I honestly, for a really long time, I was like, what do you mean? I'm just another band director. I'm just another percussionist. Like, I never really ever thought about that qualification. That like, I hate that. Well, you're good for a girl,
Oh,
like that. That's I just want to be good. And so I think for a really long time, I just kind of approached what I did. Like I just wanted to be good at what I do. And I think all of us just need to just be the best version of ourselves. But it was again kind of later in my career where, another colleague just said, hey, thanks for doing what you're doing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, well, you're the only head female director in our county at the time. And I thought, geez, I didn't even think about it that way. I was just, hey, I get to do this thing called band. And it was at that point I realized that, wait, how many head female directors are there? And I started looking, I was the only one in the county at the time. And then I started looking around Atlanta and it was single digits. You start looking around the state and it's just not that much. And at the time, the CFO for Music for All was also a very vocal female who kind of helped with some information. And we were able to look at the programming that Music for All offers and through Bands of America, and look and see, of the thousands and thousands of students participating in band, well over half, nearly 70% of the students were female. But when you looked at band programs that were competing in the fall, single digits of the 800 schools competing in the fall, single digits were being led by women. And that's where it was like, whoa. I guess being a female percussionist, when I grew up, coming through the programs in the 70s and 80s, and there weren't a lot of female percussionists, it never really dawned on me that I was by myself, because I guess I kind of always was. There were only two of us in the percussion department when I was going through Duquesne. So I just was always, I guess I thought I was always just one of the guys, like,
yeah, as a percussionist, that is sometimes that mindset. And
yeah. So I never really looked around the room. Like my first 10 years I was teaching in Pennsylvania, and to look around the room and realize like, oh wait, there are no other women in the room. Like you just don't, I never really thought about that until now. And I want all of us to wonder, like, where did those kids go? Because those young ladies who are in our programs, they've got to be our section leaders. I mean, if they're half of our band, they're section leaders, they're captains, they're band presidents, they're drum majors. What aren't we providing for them to empower them to believe that they should be leading the programs that made them who they are? So I wish I don't have the answer. I don't know what the answer is. I think being aware of the fact that we need to empower the young women in our program to see that they can do this. And they can do this and be moms, and they can do this and be wives, and and do all of those things, and do it all really, really well, is a conversation that we need to keep having. And it could be just making sure that there are female percussionists in front of all of your percussionists, ones that are really good at what they do. So girls, boys, they, them, he, she, see somebody that's just a great percussionist that doesn't look like them or does look like them. I think it's equal important to both. And on the podium, it's the same thing, and the music that we're playing, who's composing that music, again, it goes back to those choices. I have a choice of who I'm going to bring into our rehearsals, and whose literature we're going to study, and whose lives we're going to, read about, or whatever it is. So, being, as you said, Brian, intentional about those choices to just educate, that just becomes a part of the education for your students.
I love how you brought it back to the choices, because you, as the head band director, you are the influencer. And John Maxwell talks about leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And that's the quote I always go back to. You have direct influence over your 200 kids. And kind of, you can't really control what's happening in the other band programs that are competing at Grand Nationals, but you have the choice, and you have the influence over those kids. And I think that is something that, and now as you've progressed through your career, you're actually expanding your influence. And we'll talk about slam here in a sec, but you're expanding your influence. But I think for young band directors, percussion directors, I love what you're saying is, that we need to have more discussions about it. But the first discussion you need to have is with yourself, and what kind of choices you're making to influence your students that you are working with right then and there. I mean, that is that kind of what I'm hearing from you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we often say when we're doing student leadership workshops that, I have a team of colleagues, we overlap pretty frequently. And one of the things that's a great overlap is that, yes, Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world, but I guess a more realistic approach to that is that your world, and the influence that you have over your immediate world. You might not be able to change the world, but you can certainly have an influence over the world that you function in. And so, when I first took the job at Alatoona and I was leaving McEachern, I had a friend that said to me, because I was very hesitant at first to leave McEachern. They were just my people. And I still bleed blue because of my time there, and anybody that knows McEachern knows that's just it's just a very special place, and there's a very unique, it's just a unique environment to be a part of. And I really hesitated leaving, but one of my friends said, no, you're going to Alatoona because those students need to learn from you how to treat your McEachern kids someday. And I thought, oh, that's a really interesting way of putting it. Because maybe right now I'm teaching someone who's going to own a company that's going to employ someone that looks like me, And so if you can see in me that I can be really good at my job and it somehow influences your choices in the future, and you give somebody a chance that maybe your upbringing didn't allow you to see as having the possibility of being great. Now you just see that because you've seen men and women of all different races doing this thing that we love so well at a really high level. Then you start to see the possibility that they can do that in every field. Yeah. It's something that's just really important, because at some point someone thought that I could, and if they didn't see it in me, I might not be doing this. So I'm just grateful.
Yeah, well, you're making an impact, and I love that. What your friend told you about moving, and it's like, no, you need to be the influence for those people. Yep. As well. This is now the right time to influence that group. So so we've kind of answered the other two questions about how you talked about some of the things that you're doing to help improve yourself with you being solar powered and needing the sun, doing a lot of reading. And I think you've given some great advice for future leaders. I would love to transition about kind of your bigger influence with the SLAM organization. I found out about this group a little bit earlier this year with Steve Andre, who was a fine arts director in the Mesquite School District, which is very close to us. And I've known Steve for many, many years, and met with him. And I am now a member of SLAM, and very proud to be, and looking forward to being more involved with this organization. But you're a founding member and our president-elect. So please tell us more about SLAM, and just the floor is yours here for SLAM.
That's awesome. And for the members of PAS Leadership Academy, just kudos to you. I mean, that I think that sometimes as percussionists we maybe go through the certification process or get our credentials to be in a classroom, and then life just takes us a different direction. And so sometimes percussion educators do have that, and sometimes percussion educators are just people that are just advocates, and they're this is just something that they love and they're passionate about. But to then take the next step and say, no, I want to be a leader in the percussion world and for the students that I'm teaching that are percussionists. I think that SLAM is a great place for folks who want to be a part of a collaboration with other educators. And so Servant Leadership Association for Music was Tim Lotzenheiser's brainchild. And I think all of us in the band side of things could probably, the Kevin Bacon game.
Oh,
We've got like, it's for some of us 1, 2, or 3 degrees removed from Dr. Tim. We don't even have to go 7 degrees because he has been like, he is the ultimate influencer in the band world, right? Well, Tim asked a group of us, there's 18 of us, that he asked us to come together, and we have been charged with the responsibility of creating what I think a lot of us, like Steve, see as like a little bit more concrete version of Dr. Tim's legacy. I mean, Dr. Tim's legacy kind of lives in all of us whose lives have been touched by his teachings for these, 5, 6 decades. But to have an organization that exists with servant leadership at the forefront, and it's not an organization for you to send your students to go learn how to be a leader. It's for you as a professional, whatever you teach, to come and collaborate with other music educators. It's choral directors, it's orchestra directors, there's piano educators, guitar educators, band directors, percussion educators, we hope, that are a part of this organization. And we just get together to collaborate with the idea that we're all going to elevate what we're doing in our classrooms, because our music excellence only gets better when we invest in the people who are making the music. And being able to kind of cultivate this level of excellence on and off the podium, on and off the field, on and off the stage, that, Scott Rush, who is our current president, always says, we are in the music business and we're in the people business. And when you invest in the people and you invest in the process, and percussionists are great at investing in the process, but you make that investment in the people that are a part of that process, inevitably you're going to get that product elevation as well. So SLAM is just a great organization that we encourage educators to be a part of. We meet throughout the school year on Sunday nights. And I always say to my colleagues, I know Sunday night is like sacred. It's your quiet time before the week, but every once in a while, I think we all just need that jolt to give us what we need to get through the week. And that hour that we spend together via Zoom, just chatting with each other, a lot of our members just find that that's the conversation that they need, because as a specialist in your building, you don't often have, and I know like when I was in Pennsylvania, I was the only person for the middle school and the high school. So I didn't really have someone, these collaborative teams that all of our colleagues are on, where you talk to like 7, other biology teachers. We don't have that. We're the only band director. We're the only percussion instructor. We're the only choir director in our building. So the Sunday night conversations are something that we all have really kind of looked forward to, but we have a lot of content on our website. There are a lot of articles. Our board is like rock star. I don't even understand how Dr. Tim chose me to be on the board. Sometimes I'm like, what am I doing in this room? Like, I mean, authors, composers, every level from elementary through college, and across North America, which is really cool too. So we would love to make ourselves available to PAS and percussion educators, and reach out and be in touch with us, ask questions, get involved. It's just a really great group of people. We call ourselves a Slamily.
nice. I love it.
Yeah.
A Slamily. That is great. That is awesome. Well, and I one of the things that really kind of attracted me to the mission and the goal is helping current teachers.
Yes.
There's so many student leadership development programs, and helping your section leaders and your drum majors and all that. That is incredibly important as well. But sometimes we don't always have, and we have conventions, Team EA, Midwest, PASIC, that sort of thing, state conventions that people have. But there really aren't many like organizations to help music teachers. And that was one of the reasons why we started the PAS Leadership Academy.
Yeah.
It was for percussion teachers, percussion professionals, and like graduate students that are just about to get their first job and everything. And so that's what really led me, and how I love that mission of SLAM. And so I'm excited about doing more, and getting involved with it more, and helping other percussion teachers, because that's kind of my world, and helping others to know about, and hearing from you more about what SLAM is about is a great testament. You are an amazing representative and spokesperson for that organization. So I'm really excited to see what SLAM will continue to do, and how they will continue to grow, and how PAS can do even more with SLAM as well. So I'm really excited about that.
That would be awesome. Yeah. And, and you said it absolutely, Brian. I those conventions, I was that kid, man. I wanted to go to PASIC. I wanted to, on Saturday, get like my name tag punched. So I got kicked out of the hall. I wanted to be at that convention. I am that band director who goes to Midwest, and I go to state convention, and I can't wait until I can go to, the Texas Bandmasters and go to TMEA. And those things are all super important, but it's kind of like going to the dentist, but then not brushing your teeth. Like, you go to the dentist twice a year, and that's awesome. And that's super important. But if you didn't brush your teeth every day in between those visits, and so that's where we hope that SLAM kind of fills in that gap, and feeds into that professional growth and development for music educators all year long.
Yeah, it's the Stephen Covey sharpening the saw.
Absolutely.
Lesson, or I think it's lesson
number 7.
Or is it 7? Okay, yeah.
It is. Yep.
I know it's one of those, one of the last ones. So, but yeah, I mean, it's sharpening the saw, and so I think that's, and being, again, that word that we both use, intentional, about that. So that's wonderful. So again, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me, and talk to the Leadership Academy folks. I know this has been an amazing conversation with you, and we are so excited to see what you will continue to do at Alatoona, and then also everything that as you step into the president role with SLAM as well. And just wish you all of the very best, and thank you again so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us.
Thank you. It's really awesome to just be here, because this is where it started for me, in the percussion world. And so, please feel free, anybody that's watching this, find me online, get in touch, ask questions, just say, hey, I'm here for you.
Thank you so much. Okay. We'll see you later.
Thank you.